Welcome everybody. This episode, we are going to talk more about major scales, diatonic chords, but we're going to expand on that to include chord extensions. What does it mean when we see chords like E major 7, B minor 9, C diminished 7? What do these chords mean and how are they built? Well, you know what? They're built the same way as we learned in the last video, except with a slight variation. So I'm going to show you how. All right, welcome back. We are in the Zen room with the chalkboard and the piano, which can only mean one thing. We are going to get into more music theory. I love doing music theory on the piano because the piano is so graphic. If you don't have a piano at home, you can get yourself a free app. There are a lot of apps out there because laying things out on a keyboard will make things so graphic and so easy for you to understand. Playing things on a guitar, because of the staggered tunings of the fourths of the strings and the third of the second string, it makes explaining theory much more complicated when theory is really easy if it's just explained to you correctly. So let's get right into it. What were the primers that we learned in the last video? Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And the chords came out in major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, and diminished. And back the octave to major again, starting this whole sequence over. So, picking the key of C. Why? Because there are no sharps or flats in the key of C. So let me write out the key of C, which is basically all the white keys on the piano. We learned in the last video, quick recap, that chords are built by stacking thirds, and the most simple chord is the triad, which if you see written on a chord chart, just a simple C, a D, an E, a G, an F sharp, just like that, it means that it is the major triad that we're talking about. How do we make that major triad? With stacking thirds. So the first chord in the key of C, we determine with C major. The second chord, if we were to build it off of the second scale of the key of C, would be D minor, the saddest of all chords, and then E minor, and then F major, and then G major, A minor, B diminished, and then we are back to C again, which in any octave we could just do the same thing again. Right? Didn't Bill Withers do something with that? It's not for nothing that we learned this. So if we were to expand on this and include things like sevenths, ninths, 11ths, and 13ths in these chords, well, what are these things? They are just the continuation of stacking thirds in a diatonic fashion. So here we go. If we were just to stack another third on top of that C major triad, stack another third. What a pretty chord. And that is called a major 7 chord. In this case, it's C major 7. If we were in the key of E, it would be E major 7. The first chord of the major scale is always the same in every key. The only thing that changes is the pitch. The second degree of the scale. Let me write out another refinement to this one, is that we should start thinking of these in scale degrees. So, from the second scale degree, if we're to build the sad D minor chord, and we're to add another third on top of that, well, we would end up with C again, which is right here, and that's D minor 7. So it's a minor 7 chord. The third one built off of E, which we know is E minor. So if we were to stack thirds, E, skip one to another one, skip one, and then skip one again, if we were to continue writing out the scale here, it would be the same as this. So it would be E, G, B, D. E minor 7. All I'm doing is stacking thirds respecting the key signature, which is no sharps, no flats. So if I was to build a chord off of the 4th degree of the C major scale, and then add the 7th on top of that, F, skip 1, A, skip 1, C, skip 1, E, F, A, C, E. Then we have F major 7 again. Now, if I were to go to the 5th degree of the scale, now this is an important chord because it only occurs once in every key, and this is a very important chord. I'm not going to get into functional harmony right now, but suffice it to say that this chord will get a special name. If I were to take off of the 5th degree of the scale of C major, and I was to build a triad, by stacking thirds, I would have G, B, and if I were to stack a third, I would be a D, and then stack another third, I have F. That is called a G7 chord, not a G major 7, because major 7s sound different than that. This is called a dominant 7th chord. Now, if you've ever seen a chord that is just written, in this case, it would be written G7 with nothing denoting that 7. It's not G major 7 or G minor 7. Then that chord is necessarily the dominant 7th chord, which means it is built off of the 5th degree of a scale because it's the only place where that special chord with that special tension, which wants to resolve, we'll talk about that later. There's that special tension in this one that only occurs there. Now, if we were to go to the 6th degree of the C major scale and we were just to do the same thing and stack thirds, we know that we can do it graphically here on the piano. Stack a third, stack a third, stack another third, no sharps, no flats, A minor 7, because we already know it's minor, it's a minor 7th chord. And if we do the same thing off of B, and we just stack thirds, then we have a diminished, but we don't call it a diminished 7th chord because that's technically it's an altered chord. This is called, when it's diatonic, it's called a half diminished. Now, if I was to write out B diminished like that, it would just denote the triad, which would be this. If we're going up to here, it would be a half diminished, and the half diminished would be, the half diminished would be denoted by a slash through the circle. And then we're back to that beautiful C major 7 chord again. The same in all octaves. So that's the beautiful thing about the piano. It's so graphic. So in the same way that we play the scale out in notes, we could play it out in triads. We can play it out in 7th chords. So there you have it. It's no more complicated than that. We're just stacking thirds. Okay, but we've seen things more than 7th chords before. Even in rock music, sometimes there's 9th chords. Or if you're Andy Summers of the Police, there's 11th and 13th chords regularly in there. He's a very sophisticated guitar player who clearly knew his theory. What happens when we get into 9th chords? Well, let me clear the board, and I'm going to write this out in 2 octaves So we can really make this graphic. It is super simple to understand, which is why I love doing it on the piano, because the piano is so graphic, and the guitar, because of the tuning, is complicated to explain these things on, because it does not lend itself visually very well. So let's stick with the key of C just for now. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. When you're spelling a major scale out, any scale, you have to use all 7 letters. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's 7 letters in there. They all have to be used once. We're spelling it from C to C, and we're just going to keep going like that, just to make sure. It'll become apparent why a little bit later. But it is just, it's an orthodoxy that is important that we respect. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. We have 2 octaves of the C major scale. So if we have already established that if we let's call these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Stop there for now. We stack thirds, we get a major triad. We stack another third, we get a major 7 chord. Now if we stack another third, we're into the next octave. But instead of calling this, it's not a C major 2 chord, you will see a C sus2. That's a different kind of chord. We'll get into that in another time. Here we're talking about chord extensions. Let's put in the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If there's a 7th in the chord, because we've stacked 1, 2, 3 thirds, here we are, stack a third, stack a third, stack a third, that's a 7th chord. If we were to stack another third on top of that, which in this case would be a D, now we have a C major 9 chord. So a C major 9 chord is a chord built off of the 1st degree of the C major scale, stacking 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds on top of each other. Very nice chord, beautiful chord. If I was to continue on, now at this point, if we're looking at how the scale is repeating itself in the next octave, well, E we already have there as a third, so we're not going to call it a 10th, because even if you put E in an octave higher, it's still functioning as the third of the chord. And the 12 here, well, that's G, and G is already the 5th of the chord. So just because we repeat it an octave higher does not give it a new function. But when we add new notes to the chord, now if we kept stacking to the next one, it's going to be a mitful, but stack a third, respecting that there's no sharps and flats, it's all the white keys. That's the 9, that's the 11th. And then if we stack yet another third on top of that, C minor 13. If we stopped at the F, C major 13. If we stopped at the F, it would be C major 11. If we went all the way to the 13, it would be C major 13. Another way that this can be written, instead of writing out the major, sometimes you'll see a little triangle next to it. And if there's a triangle next to it and there's a 13, it's a major 13 chord. And we know that if we do major, instead of writing it out, I'll just do it in uppercase and lowercase. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. then we know that off of the first degree of the scale that we would get a major 7 chord. The fourth degree of the scale, we get a major 7th chord. The fifth degree of the scale is a dominant 7th chord, as we just saw earlier. Let me clean the top up a little bit here so we can stack thirds a little more cleanly. Now, if I were to start on the 5th and I were to make a G triad, well, it would be G. We're in the key of C, no sharps, no flats. Stack a third, stack a third, stack a third. That's G7. So if somebody writes G7 just like that, that's what they mean. The dominant 7th chord. And now if we just stack another third on top of that, we have G9. Stack another third on top of that. Here we would have G11. Stack another third. We would have 13, because from C we would just stack another third up to E. Here's an interesting thing that this will give us. I'm going to clear this. We're going to go back to our major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. And I'm going to wrap it up because there's no real new information that I want to divulge today, but I just want to talk about the orthodoxy of how we write chords and chord symbols. So if we have major, minor, minor, major, dominant, because it's the 5th degree, right? We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the 5, we know it's dominant. 6 is minor. The 7th is diminished. Let's call these scale degrees instead of notes. Now we're really getting into theory here because we don't even have a key to hang our hat on, okay? These are scale degrees. Could be any key whatsoever. If you see, for instance, a C major 7 chord, according to this primer, this is how powerful this is. According to this primer, if we just add sevenths onto all of this, and here it would be half diminished if we're just adding sevenths, you see that a major 7 chord will only occur on the 1st or 4th degree of a scale. So C major, if I'm playing C major could be the 1 of C, or it could be the 4 of another key. If I was playing a minor 7th chord, it's a little more complicated here. Let's say we're in the key of C again, and I was playing E minor 7. Well, E minor 7 could be in the key of C, would be the 3, but it could also be the 2 of something else, or it could be the 6 of something else. But when you see a 7th chord, if I was to play the G7 chord, it's a dominant 7th chord. So any key that's written like this, like this, like this, any chord that is a 7th or a 9 or an 11 or a 13 with no other qualifier like G minor 7 or G major 7, if it's just G7 or G9, then it has to have been built off of the 5th degree of the given scale. So that's where I'm going to leave it right now. We're standing at the gate of functional harmony right now. But what I really want to get back to is diatonic chords and the major scale. All of these complicated chords that we're seeing that have no alterations, which I'll get into on another video, are all just stacking thirds. So if we are in the key of C and we take the C major triad and we just keep stacking thirds, we get C major 7, then we get C major 9, then we get C major 11, and then we get C major 13, etc., etc. So it works the same for minor chords. And when you have no qualifier and you just see a letter with a number beside it like that, it's the dominant 7th chord. It came from the 5th degree of the scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. You get these 3 things down and you are going to have a really good time dissecting music, learning how to apply scales over certain chord progressions, and you'll be able to pick up, just looking at chord progressions, you'll know, yep, I know what key that's in, because any chord progression that goes like this, that has to be this degree scale, that has to be that scale degree. It for me, it opened my eyes. So thank you. It is always an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you guys. If you feel that you get value from these videos, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video. Let me know what you think about music theory. Has it changed your life? Do you care? Do you want to learn music theory? And if not, why not? So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I'm just sharing with you my life experiences on my journey to musical nirvana. That's it. We're all just trying to be the best musicians we can be, or at least I'm trying to be. And I have a feeling that if you're watching these videos, that you're on the same journey as me. So let's take this journey together. I'm Double D, aka Dwayne Dixon. It is always an honor to spend time with you. See you on the next one.